Wife's Essex affair with teenage neighbors. Son ends in death. On December 15, 2009, in a quiet Atlanta neighborhood, Angela Matthews opened her door to a visitor she should have turned away. What began as an innocent exchange with the neighbor's son quickly spiraled into a web of secrets that no one in the tight-knit community could have anticipated. By the time the truth surfaced, blood had already been spilled, and the life of one housewife would become a cautionary tale etched in whispers across the block. Angela Angie Matthews was a strikingly beautiful 38-year-old woman married to Marcus Matthews, a successful businessman who spent most of his time away from home. Their marriage from the outside appeared perfect, with a nice house, expensive cars, and a life of luxury. But beneath the surface, Angie felt an emptiness that no amount of wealth could fill. That afternoon, while Marcus was away on another business trip, Angie found herself drawn to Jamal Thompson, the 22-year-old son of her neighbor. Jamal had grown up next door, a bright, ambitious young man with a promising future. Over the years, Angie had watched him mature from a boy into a man. Something about his youthful energy and charm stirred feelings in her that she hadn't experienced in years. It started innocently enough: a smile, a lingering glance, a casual conversation by the fence that separated their homes. But on that December day, the attraction that had been brewing between them boiled over. Jamal visited Angie's home under the pretense of helping her fix a broken faucet. One thing led to another, and before long they found themselves in each other's arms, crossing a line they both knew they shouldn't. Their affair began in secret, fueled by the thrill of the forbidden. Whenever Marcus was away, Angie would invite Jamal over, using the privacy of her home as a sanctuary for their stolen moments. The excitement of sneaking around and the danger of being caught only made their encounters more intoxicating. They convinced themselves that no one would ever know, that they were careful enough to keep their secret hidden. But they were wrong. By February 2, 2010, the affair had been going on for nearly 2 months. Angie and Jamal had become more reckless and daring. The fear of being caught only added to the excitement, pushing them to take greater risks. They met at odd hours, even during the day, relying on Marcus's frequent absences to cover their tracks. That morning, Marcus was supposed to be in Chicago for a business meeting. Angie, confident that she had the day to herself, invited Jamal over as usual. They spent hours together, losing themselves in the intensity of their relationship. But what they didn't know was that Marcus had wrapped up his meeting early and decided to surprise his wife by coming home ahead of schedule. At 2:45 p.m., Marcus pulled into the driveway. Angie and Jamal were upstairs, completely unaware of his presence. As Marcus entered the house, he called out for Angie, his voice echoing through the quiet halls. Angie's heart nearly stopped when she heard his voice. Panic set in. As she realized the danger they were in, she frantically pushed Jamal out of bed, urging him to hide. Jamal, half-dressed and shaken, barely had time to slip out of the bedroom and into the adjacent bathroom. Marcus, oblivious to the tension in the air, made his way upstairs, calling Angie's name. Angie quickly pulled herself together, forcing a smile as she met Marcus in the hallway. She made up a story about taking a nap, hoping he wouldn't notice the disheveled state of the bedroom behind her. Marcus, tired from his trip, didn't press her for details. He kissed her on the cheek and headed to the bathroom to freshen up. Angie's heart raced as she realized Jamal was still hiding in there. But luck was on their side. Marcus decided to use the guest bathroom downstairs instead. As soon as he was out of sight, Angie whispered for Jamal to leave through the back door. Jamal slipped out, narrowly avoiding being caught, but the close call left them both rattled. After that day, Angie knew they had to be more careful. The thrill was still there, but now it was tinged with fear. Yet despite the danger, neither of them could bring themselves to end the affair. They were addicted to the rush, to the way they made each other feel, and so they continued, their meetings more secretive and their actions more reckless. On February 20th, 2010, their luck began to run out. Mrs. Jenkins, the elderly woman who lived across the street, had always been known as the neighborhood busybody. Nothing happened on that block without her knowing, and she had begun to notice the strange comings and goings at the Matthews house. That afternoon, she saw Jamal sneaking into Angie's home, his eyes darting around as if he were afraid of being seen. Mrs. Jenkins, suspicious by nature, watched from her window. Her curiosity was piqued. Later that evening, as she chatted with another neighbor, she casually mentioned what she had seen. Gossip spread quickly in their tight-knit community, and it wasn't long before the rumors reached Patrice Thompson, Jamal's mother. Patrice, a deeply religious woman with high hopes for her son, was alarmed by the whispers. She confronted Jamal that night, demanding to know what was going on. Jamal, caught off guard, denied everything. He insisted that Mrs. Jenkins must have been mistaken, that there was nothing going on between him and Angie, but the seed of doubt had already been planted in Patrice's mind. She didn't believe her son was telling the whole truth, but she had no proof, just the word of an old woman known for her gossip. Despite his denial, Jamal couldn't shake the fear that his secret was no longer safe. The walls were closing in, and the affair that had once been a thrilling escape now felt like a ticking time bomb, ready to explode at any moment. But neither Jamal nor Angie could have predicted just how devastating that explosion would be. On the evening of March 5, 2010, the air in the Matthews home was heavy with tension. Angela Matthews had been wrestling with guilt for weeks. The weight of her affair with Jamal Thompson had become too much to bear. She had decided that it was time to end things with Jamal, knowing that continuing the relationship could only lead to more trouble. But as she prepared to break the news to him, she had no idea how explosive the situation would become. Around 7 p.m., Angie invited Jamal over under the pretense of a usual meeting. But this time, instead of the passionate embrace he expected, Jamal was met with a somber Angela. She told him that their affair had to end, that it was becoming too risky, and that they both needed to move on. Jamal, who had grown increasingly attached to Angie, felt his world crashing down around him. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. After everything they had been through, she was just going to throw it all away? Jamal's initial shock quickly turned to anger. He accused Angie of using him, of playing with his emotions. Angie, trying to stay calm, explained that it wasn't like that, but Jamal wasn't listening. His desperation began to show, his voice rising as he pleaded with her not to end things, but Angie remained firm, telling him that it was over and he needed to leave. The argument escalated rapidly. Jamal, feeling cornered and rejected, became more aggressive. He grabbed Angie's arm, pulling her close as he continued to plead, but she pulled away, demanding that he leave immediately. In a fit of rage, Jamal shoved her away from him. Angie, caught off balance, stumbled backward toward the staircase. The next few seconds happened in slow motion. Jamal reached out to grab her, but it was too late. Angie lost her footing and fell backward down the stairs, her body tumbling violently before landing in a crumpled heap at the bottom. The house fell eerily silent. Jamal stood frozen at the top of the stairs, his heart pounding in his chest. As he stared down at Angie's lifeless body, panic set in as he realized what had just happened. He rushed down the stairs, calling her name, but there was no response. Angie was gone, her neck twisted at an unnatural angle, her eyes staring blankly ahead. The fall had been fatal, and there was nothing he could do to bring her back. Terrified, Jamal fled the scene, leaving Angie's body where it lay. He ran back to his own house, his mind racing with fear and regret. He knew he had to get out of there, but he had no idea where to go or what to do. All he knew was that he had killed the woman he claimed to love, and now his life was in ruins. The next morning on March 6, 2010, Marcus Matthews returned home from another business trip. He entered the house expecting to find Angie waiting for him as usual, but instead he was met with an unsettling silence. He called out her name, but there was no answer. As he moved through the house, a sense of dread began to build inside him.